And so after this, and the success that happens, he ends up building a walled city, and he names it Byblos. And Byblos in Arabic is Jubail, but in Arabic, see Rabbi Arabic, there is a Mediterranean city in the Mount Lebanon, Cumberland, Lebanon, which is believed to have been occupied first between 8800 and 7000 BC. Today it is believed to be the oldest continuously inhabited city in the world. The name Byblos is Greek, and it relates to papyrus. Papyrus received in its early Greek name was Byblos or Biblinos from its being exported to the Aegean through Byblos, and the Greek words biblion, biblia, and ultimately the word Bible, which means the papyrus book, are traced to that name, a reed form papyrus script. Saturn is a god in ancient Roman religion and a character in myth. We're all pretty familiar with him and how the ringed planet goes for him, but he was the first god of the capital of Rome, known since the most ancient times as Saturnus Mons. Now, if you look it up, Rome itself was originally named Saturnus Mons, and the hills around it, the whole area, Saturnus Mons, and then they started building 7 little cities around on the hills, encapsulated in, and later changed their name to Rome. But Saturn was seen as a god of generations, dissolution, plenty, wealth, agriculture, and periodic renewal and libation, or liberation from problems. In later develops, he also becomes a god of time. Time is money. His reign was depicted as a golden age of plenty and peace. And interestingly for the Jews, the temple of Saturn in the Roman form housed the state treasury. Saturn is the 6th planet from the sun, named for the 6th day of the week, and is observed as the biblical Sabbat at 6 o'clock or sundown whenever you start being able to see him. So they aren't having sun worship in the morning, they're having Saturn worship in the evening on their Sabbats. One other 6 correlation, if you want to 666 this thing to crazy, is the sign of Saturn is a hexagram. The hexagram makes the Star of David and the Jewish star, which has 6 points on it. And ironically, now we have found that on the North Pole of the planet Saturn is a hexagon that is formed. And so there is a lot more to this than meets the eye. It was a custom in ancient times, due to the actions of Kronos himself, that during an extreme time of peril, that they would sacrifice their first son. And he did it, and it brought forth rain and fixed the problem once. And even Greek Jewish historians say that Isaac was just mimicry of this fact, trying to attach them to the fact of Kronos and to attach him to what other peoples had already believed. And this idea of killing your son got taken out of hand during the Baal reign, and they were having to kill their children. If you'll look just past the 10 Commandments, God tells you more things that he needs, and I believe 7th or 8th on the list is that he wants your firstborn son as a sacrifice. And so that would not be God. But he wants you to do this sacrifice like that, and kill people. Kill your own child. And this was done as a scapegoat situation, supposedly taking all your sins away in the eye of God. Muslims believe this now. Mothers believe if 2 or 3 of their children die in the name of God, that makes them not burn in hellfire, and so they don't have any problem sending their kids off to die. I'll just have a few more. That's why they have a bunch of kids and incite wars, by the way. But there was this scapegoat. that they had twisted it into, where they would put all the sins on a goat. And they would take two goats, and one would be chosen for the sacrifice for the people, and the other would be run off into the woods far off by somebody who was not a Jew that they had hired. And this was supposed to be an atonement, or a fixing of their sins. And that extra goat was sent out in the woods to be killed for Azazel, for their sins. So the demon that runs around in the wilderness, and they would appease him by doing this. Now this is in Judaism. This is Jewish stuff. And so here you find in John 11:47 through 53 that the priests gathered together, the Pharisees, a council, and they wonder what they're going to do about Jesus. And for this man does many miracles. If we let him thus alone, all men will believe on him, and the Romans shall come and take away both our place and our nation. And one of them, named Caiaphas, being the high priest of that same year, said unto them, You know nothing at all, nor consider what is expedient for us, that one man should die for the people, and that the whole nation perish not. They're going to make Jesus the scapegoat. And the scapegoat was given a chance. They have this thing that they have adopted where one person will get let loose from prison. Everybody will get together and they'll decide on who gets let loose from prison, and he is the Passover lamb that gets let free. And the other one is going to be killed on that day, and he will be the scapegoat for all the Jewish people. And they decide that Jesus should die for that nation, and not for that nation only, but also he should gather together in one of the children of God that are scattered abroad. From that day, they took counsel together for to put him to death. So that's when they decided to put Jesus to death as the scapegoat. Right there. So this is Phoenician history, and in Phoenician they use the word Ayud. That's the name of the child who was sacrificed of Saturn's. In Greek, it would be Eusus, Jesus, and in English, that actually becomes Jesus. So there's the name way back there that happened, and that ends up being our Christ. And so after this, and the success that happens, he ends up building a walled city, and he names it Byblos. And Byblos in Arabic is Jubail, but in Arabic, see Rabbi, Arabic, there is a Mediterranean city in the Mount Lebanon, Cumberland, Lebanon, which is believed to have been occupied first between 8800 and 7000 BC. Today it is believed to be the oldest continuously inhabited city in the world. The name Byblos is Greek, and it relates to papyrus. Papyrus received in its early Greek name was Byblos or Biblinos, from its being exported to the Aegean through Byblos, and the Greek words biblion, biblia, and ultimately the word Bible, which means the papyrus book, are traced to that name, a reed form papyrus script. The Canaanites took up the name of Elis for this same god, and isn't it weird how in America everybody landed on Ellis Island? And that was the starting point. Right there where there's a Statue of Liberty that really looks like a Astarte, with their rays coming out of her head. Anyhow, Elohim, it's just telling you here that it generally thought of as being plural, and that they could have used the word Eloha if they wanted to say it's